right, back with Vince, Tyler, Will. I want to read a little bit more, just a couple more blurbs off of this thing because I think some of it's pertinent or interesting. This kind of gets back to, well, here, I'll flip these around. All right. As his phone blew up on Thursday with calls and texts, this is after the story on On3 had come out, that they're negotiating, he could hold out, all this other
Now
stuff.
we're in April.
Yes, we're in April. This is on the Thursday. Friday doesn't show up. Saturday's gone. As his phone blew up Thursday with calls and texts, Iamaleava was blindsided. He still attended a dinner along with his fellow Tennessee quarterbacks Thursday night at the home of Joey Halsley. But later that night, sources close to Iamaleava say he reached his breaking point. He couldn't understand why the reports were coming out, where they were coming from, who he could trust going forward, and he felt pressured to make a decision about his future. He was ready to leave, sources said, but his father encouraged him to sleep on the decision. The next morning, Iamaleava didn't show up for Friday's practice or meetings and didn't alert anyone in the program. Nick Iamaleava urged his son to go in and meet face-to-face with Heupel and his coaches to work things out. But Iamaleava felt betrayed, sources said, and he didn't speak with Heupel on Friday. Several people within the Vols program tried to reach out to the quarterback to no avail. So his father all along was not the bad guy. His father was trying to smooth it over. His father was the calm voice of patience.
I don't know if that's true.
I've not heard that from anyone.
I don't know if that's true or not. I do know.
That's wild.
Nico called Joey Halsley. He called Joey Halsley
And said, I'm in the portal.
And said, we're gone. Yeah. And also reached out to a number of teammates and said, we're gone. And that's why a lot of Tennessee fans got really mad at me because everybody else is selling, Tennessee told Nico to kick rocks.
Yeah,
that's a ball-faced lie. It didn't happen. Yeah. You know what I mean? But that's how good Tennessee is at PR because they never said.
If you go back to that Sunday when you were saying, why are they doing all this? And we're like, because it's PR. And you're like, why do they need, this is why.
Yeah, but
this is why they were needed. But
you didn't have to do any of that.
No, you don't want to be the bad guy in this. You have to make the other guy the bad guy. And I don't know that there's any good guy here. I think I don't think anybody's a good guy. I think asking for $4 million when you've already signed a contract and you may not be worth $2 million, you're the bad guy.
But wait a minute.
However,
can I?
Yeah.
Okay. If he's the only player in college football that's supposed to play in his old contract. I would say the same thing about all of them. I would say the same thing about all of them. Like everybody else is making $3.5.
I don't care.
Mike Matthews doubled his pay.
Stop stinking. Fine.
Well, I don't know that he's stung, but I see what. Look, is he worth $4?
He ain't
no,
$4.
But neither's DJ Lagway worth $3.5.
We're off the topic though. If you're asking for $4, in my opinion, you ought to be worth $4 if you're asking for it. I get that it's the market. Yeah. Fine. We talked about Mike Matthews earlier. Got a big raise for 7 catches. Congratulations. I think it's a broken system, and it makes me angry to talk about it. However, the point here I think that's fascinating is just how wildly opposite these stories are. Mm-hmm. Tennessee told him, you're out of here. No, they knew he was going when they came out and said no one's bigger than the program. That is kind of a spin thing there. That's a post-move spin. That one makes, that one's a little questionable.
That's got hey, I've got a better job. I'm going to move on. Appreciate it. Well, you can't quit. You're fired.
Exactly. Yes, perfect.
Okay, I guess I'll take
Sure.
Yeah, that's kind of what that is.
All right.
But I still don't think that's a huge problem. It's just that's the facts of the case. Everybody celebrated that you told him to stick it. You didn't pay him, so you kind of told him to stick it, but you didn't actually tell him, nobody's bigger than the program. Hit the bricks. He was already gone by that point.
But Josh Heupel said in the post-spring game press conference that they knew that it was over basically when he didn't show up, after that practice. So
that still made it sound though like when he didn't show up, he was off our team, or you could take it as, well, we knew he was gone at that point. It depends on the interpretation. Most people I've heard from took it as when he didn't show up for practice, Heupel gave him the heave-ho.
That's exactly right. Did they make that decision and say we're done with this? We're not gonna deal with this anymore, or was this, oh man, he's definitely leaving? That was on Friday after that practice, and then Nico calls later on and says, calling Coach Halsley, as was reported, that he's leaving. So which one came first in the afternoon of Friday? So it could very well be that spin that you guys are talking about. But we don't.
And I would say Tennessee's so good at PR because did they ever say they kicked Nico? No, they said we've moved on.
Right, but
Tennessee's so good at this. They really are.
Well, Lane Kiffin nailed it, and we used that comment last week where he said, look, schools have more access to the media. Schools do this more often. Schools know what they're doing. Yeah. But here's I'm still not with you that UT is somehow the villain in this.
I don't know that anybody's the villain in this. I think it's business.
I do think it's kind of amusing, though, that Nico's dad is telling him, "You need to meet with them, son.
Yeah, I don't
You
mind
need to,
that.
you need to
Yeah.
sleep on it."
I don't mind
That doesn't sound like anything
no.
anyone's ever said about Nick Iamaleava.
I'll give you that,
since
but
he's been here.
guess what? I'm also the type of friend too that's going, you're going to leave a 6-figure job for what? To go live in a van by the river? Why don't we sit down and talk about this before you make a bad decision?
Well, I will say this. On that report, I can vouch for 80% of it. I have gotten it confirmed to a lot of people that a lot of that's true. That is the part I've never heard.
Yeah, nobody's ever heard that. Here's the last couple of things I want to read. Although UCLA has been pleased with Aguilar as a good fit for Cincinnati's offense, it also viewed Iamaleava as a clear upgrade. He'd started a full season for an SEC team that went to the college football playoff. UCLA recognized some of the drama in Iamaleava's orbit, but the player himself was well liked by those inside the Tennessee program until his no-show. Now, here's another one who didn't get the message on the Tennessee side. A Tennessee source told Lowe and Rittenberg and the other author, he was never a troublemaker, worked hard and didn't cause problems in the locker room. He was quiet and kept to himself a lot, sort of had that California cool to him, but it's unfair to paint him as a bad kid.
That's true.
So
And even
that's
Tennessee
opposite.
people have said that.
Well, but yes, but it has been spun the other way in that he's been made out to be this bad guy. He's the only one who didn't show up
Yeah.
for NIL deals. No,
Mm-hmm.
there's a whole lot of them don't show up for NIL deals. That, and we talked about that in the past, that, okay, it has gone too far into making him this villain. I don't think that really fits either. I think that the family asked for too much cash, so that makes you the bad guy in this, in my view, because you weren't worth it. But I don't think the kid was evil.
No.
And the idea that he was some sort of, now we know what he was really like behind the scenes, I don't think that was the case. And you heard it from people here too. So.
I will say, Tyler and I have been at 2 different remotes where a very well-loved and respected player was supposed to show up. Both times they lied to the people they were supposed to show up for and said that they were at practice when it wasn't the time that practice happened.
Yeah, that's nuts. And I'm guessing that happens everywhere
Yep.
across the country. Because when you give somebody money, they know you're going to give them money. And all they have to do is say, I want more money.
Yep.
And then you bend over and give them more money.